Mountains are inevitable. Every single one of us, no matter where we come from, who we are, or what we have accomplished, will face moments when life places a mountain right in front of us. It may not be a literal mountain with rock and stone, but it will feel just as immovable. Sometimes it looks like a financial struggle that will not break. Sometimes it looks like a relationship that feels beyond repair. Sometimes it looks like a sickness that lingers longer than expected, or a dream that seems too far out of reach. The truth is, mountains are a part of the journey of life. You cannot live long enough, pray hard enough, or prepare well enough to avoid every single obstacle. Challenges are built into the design of growth. Just as weights in a gym are necessary to build strength, mountains in life are necessary to build endurance, character, and depth. The mistake many people make is thinking that the presence of a mountain means the absence of progress. They look at the size of the challenge and assume that because it's there, they are failing or falling behind. But the presence of a mountain does not mean you are losing. It means you are in the right place at the right time for something extraordinary to happen. You see, mountains only show up on paths that lead somewhere significant. No one builds mountains in the middle of empty roads. Mountains appear on trails that matter. So, if you find yourself staring at an obstacle that feels overwhelming, it is not a sign to quit. It is a sign that you are moving in the direction of purpose. When mountains rise up, they demand a response. They force you to decide whether you will shrink back or step up, whether you will give in or grow stronger. And the beautiful thing about life is that mountains are impartial. They don't discriminate. They come to the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the old and the young. Everyone faces them, but what separates people is not whether or not they encounter mountains, but how they choose to respond. One person sees the mountain and turns around in fear. Another sees the mountain and says, "This is my moment to climb, to stretch, to believe, to discover what I am truly capable of." Sometimes mountains don't move instantly. Sometimes they require you to climb, step by step, sweating and struggling. Other times they crumble when you refuse to back down. But either way, the mountain exists not to defeat you, but to develop you. That's why it is inevitable, because without it, you would never know the depth of your strength, the reach of your faith, or the resilience of your spirit. Without it, you would settle for a shallow life with no stretching, no testing, and no growth. So when you see that mountain, do not be surprised and do not be discouraged. Expect it, welcome it as a sign that you are on the right path. Understand that it is not there to stop you, but to shape you. The inevitability of mountains is not bad news. It is the announcement that greatness requires resistance, and resistance always shows up in the form of a mountain. Your faith is stronger than your fear. Fear always shows up when something significant is about to happen. It whispers in your ear that you are not good enough, not qualified enough, not strong enough, and not ready. Fear is the voice that tells you to stop before you even start. It magnifies the size of the mountain and minimizes the strength inside of you. It thrives on hesitation, and it multiplies when you feed it with doubt. But fear, no matter how loud or how intimidating it may appear, is powerless when it comes face to face with faith. Faith is the antidote, the counterweight, the weapon that dismantles fear's grip. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward even while fear is present. Fear will always try to paralyze you. It will try to lock you into yesterday's failures and convince you that tomorrow will look no different. It will make you replay mistakes in your mind until you are too exhausted to try again. But faith speaks a different language. Faith does not deny the reality of challenges, but it declares that challenges do not have the final say. Faith looks fear in the face and says, "You may stand here, but you cannot rule here." Faith does not shrink when fear rises. It grows louder, bolder, and more confident. When you choose faith, you are choosing to see beyond what your eyes can immediately capture. Fear limits your vision to the obstacle in front of you, but faith stretches your vision to the outcome waiting on the other side. Fear focuses on the impossibility of the moment, while faith focuses on the possibility of what could be. Fear counts your weaknesses, but faith multiplies your strengths. Fear tells you to quit, while faith reminds you of every reason you cannot afford to give up. And the truth is, whichever voice you feed will dominate your life. If you constantly rehearse fear, it will grow louder until it drowns out hope. But if you nurture faith through your thoughts, your words, your actions, it will expand until fear has no choice but to shrink. Faith does not need perfect circumstances to operate. In fact, it thrives in imperfection. It shines brightest in the middle of uncertainty. It steps up when resources are lacking, when doors are closing, when people are doubting. That's when faith says, keep moving forward. Fear will always point you to the danger of the storm, but faith will always remind you of the strength you carry to survive it. Fear will emphasize how tall the mountain is, but faith will remind you that mountains can move. Every great breakthrough in history required faith that was stronger than fear. No one who ever did anything meaningful did it without trembling at some point. The difference was that they let faith lead instead of fear. Fear may knock on your door, but it does not have to be the driver of your decisions. Faith is stronger. Faith is louder. Faith carries you further than fear ever could. And when you let faith lead, you discover that the very fear that once tried to paralyze you becomes fuel for the courage that propels you forward. Mountains reveal your inner strength. You never really know how much is inside of you until life demands that you reach deeper than you ever imagined. On ordinary days, when everything is smooth and comfortable, you operate at a surface level. You rely on what is familiar, on what you already know you can handle. But when a mountain rises up in front of you, when you are pushed into situations that stretch you beyond your comfort zone, that's when the real you shows up. The challenge is not simply there to frustrate you, but to introduce you to a version of yourself you might never have met otherwise. It is in the climb that you discover your endurance. It is in the resistance that you uncover your resilience. The mountain calls forth qualities that comfort will never demand. You learn how strong your faith really is, how determined your willpower can be, and how resourceful your mind becomes when excuses are no longer an option. What you thought was a limb, it is often just the edge of what you've experienced so far. The mountain proves that your limits are not permanent boundaries. They are only the starting lines for growth. Too often, people pray for strength but resist the very situations that build it. You cannot develop muscle without resistance, and you cannot develop character without challenge. The mountain is not there to prove your weakness. It is there to showcase your strength. Sometimes you surprise yourself with how much you can handle. The pressure makes you dig deeper, think sharper, stand taller. And when you look back after the climb, you realize you were stronger than you ever gave yourself credit for. This is why some of the most powerful testimonies come from those who have faced the tallest mountains. They endured seasons that looked impossible, yet they came out not only standing but stronger, wiser, and more courageous. Their stories remind us that strength is not found in avoiding battles, but in walking through them with perseverance. The mountain doesn't weaken you, it toughens you. It strips away pretense, excuses, and distractions, leaving only the raw determination to overcome. The greatest discoveries of your character are not made when the sun is shining and the road is clear. They are made when the storm is raging and the mountain is steep. That's when you find out what you're really made of. Deep within you lies more courage, more grit, and more faith than you have ever tapped into. The mountain is simply the stage where that hidden strength can finally be revealed. So when the obstacle feels overwhelming, remind yourself that you are being given an opportunity to see a side of yourself you've never met before. Every struggle uncovers another layer of your strength. Every climb introduces you to a deeper level of your potential. Without the mountain, you would never know just how strong you truly are. Obstacles are temporary. When you are standing in front of something that feels impossible to move, the natural thought is that it will last forever. It feels permanent because it blocks your view of what lies beyond it. You wake up and the obstacle is still there. You go to sleep and it still stares back at you the next day. The weight of it can trick your mind into believing that this moment defines your future. But what you see right now is not the end of your story. Mountains don't last forever. Problems don't remain unchallenged. Every obstacle has an expiration date. The danger comes when we confuse the present moment with a permanent condition. We begin to talk as if things will always be the way they are. We start to internalize delay as destiny. We start to accept difficulty as identity, but the truth is, what feels fixed is often only temporary. Seasons shift, circumstances change, and what was once impossible can become manageable with time, persistence, and perspective. What you are facing right now may feel immovable, but if you keep pressing, it will eventually give way. Temporary does not always mean easy. Sometimes temporary obstacles last longer than we want them to, stretching our patience and testing our resilience. But the fact that something is still present does not mean it is permanent. Even the longest winters give way to spring. Even the darkest nights eventually bow to the rising of the sun. Obstacles must obey the same principle. They cannot outlast someone who refuses to give up. When you remind yourself that obstacles are temporary, you guard your heart against despair. You protect your mind from settling into defeat. You anchor your spirit in the truth that time and persistence are powerful allies. The mountain may look strong, but it is not eternal. It is only a chapter, not the whole book. It is only a moment, not the final outcome. And when you believe that truth, you gain the strength to endure the climb without losing hope. This perspective also helps you to see that some obstacles are not there to stop you, but to slow you down long enough to prepare you. The delay is not always denial. It may be development. The closed door may not be rejection. It may be redirection. What feels like a roadblock today may turn out to be the very thing that positioned you for greater opportunity tomorrow. Seen this way, obstacles don't just become temporary, they become purposeful. So no matter how heavy the weight, no matter how high the wall, remind yourself that this is not forever. You are not stuck in this place permanently. You are moving through it, and one day you will look back and realize that what once felt like a mountain was really just a moment. And moments, no matter how overwhelming they seem, are always temporary. It's not enough to believe. You must step forward with courage. Belief is powerful, but belief without action remains dormant. Many people carry dreams, visions, and hopes within their hearts, but they never see them come alive because they stop at belief. They say, "I know it's possible," but they never take the first step to test that possibility. The truth is, faith without action is incomplete. What moves the mountain is not just what you believe in your mind, but what you are willing to do with your hands, your feet, and your choices. Action activates breakthroughs. When you act, even in small ways, you set things in motion that belief alone cannot accomplish. A seed has the potential to become a tree, but unless it is planted in the soil, watered, and nurtured, it remains a seed forever. In the same way, your belief is the seed, but your action is the planting. Until you move, your dream cannot grow roots. Until you step out, your vision cannot gain traction. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom and convinces us to wait for the perfect time. It whispers that we should hold back until everything is certain, until every detail is figured out, until the road is completely clear. But there will never be a perfect time. There will always be reasons to hesitate, questions that remain unanswered, and risks that cannot be calculated. Courage is moving forward despite the uncertainty. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear dictate your choices. When you step forward, you may not see the entire path, but each step reveals more of the journey. Action has a way of unlocking clarity. What looked impossible from a distance often becomes manageable when you start moving closer. The mountain may appear massive when you stand at the base, but as you climb step by step, you realize progress is possible. What felt immovable begins to shift, not because it changed, but because you refused to remain still. Every great victory in life has been tied to action. Belief started it, but action completed it. The inventor who believed in a new idea had to risk failure by testing it. The leader who believed in a vision had to step forward even when others doubted. The individual who believed in change had to make uncomfortable decisions to pursue it. In every case, the difference between those who dream and those who achieve lies in the willingness to act. So the call is simple. Don't just believe, move. Don't just hope, act. Don't just imagine, build. Courage is not waiting for fear to disappear. It is moving in the presence of fear, knowing that action itself weakens fear's grip. And with every step you take, the mountain loses more of its power. You will never see the fullness of what belief can do until you marry it with bold, consistent action. That is how breakthroughs are born, and that is how mountains are moved. When you move your mountain, your story becomes your testimony. Every obstacle you face is not only about your personal growth, but also about the impact your journey will have on others. People are watching how you handle the weight of your challenges. They see the way you respond when the odds are against you, and when you overcome what looked impossible, it becomes more than just your victory. It becomes an inspiration to everyone who witnesses it. The struggle you endure is not wasted. It carries meaning far beyond your own life. Your testimony has power. It carries the ability to breathe hope into someone else who is standing at the bottom of their own mountain, wondering if they have the strength to climb. When they hear your story, they realize they are not alone. They see that the impossible can be made possible. They gain courage to take their own steps forward because your journey proves that breakthrough is real. What you overcome privately can encourage someone publicly. That's why every mountain you move matters, not only for you, but for everyone connected to you. There are people who may never read a book of wisdom, may never attend a motivational seminar, may never sit in a classroom of teaching, but they will read your life. They will learn from your example. They will find strength in your perseverance. Your scars will speak louder than your words because they show that you have lived through the battle and come out on the other side. What once embarrassed you, what once weighed you down, can become the very thing that validates your message of resilience. The beauty of a testimony is that it transforms pain into purpose. The nights you cried, the days you struggled, the moments you almost gave up, none of it is wasted. When you look back, you realize that the hardest seasons of your life were not just about survival, they were about preparation. They positioned you to help others in ways you could never have imagined. Without your mountain, you wouldn't have a message. Without your trial, you wouldn't have the authority to speak into someone else's struggle. Every time you share your testimony, you plant a seed of hope in someone else's heart. You may not even realize the impact, but your words and your example can change the course of another person's life. That's why you cannot despise the journey. That's why you cannot regret the climb. Because in the end, your story becomes proof that mountains can move, and that proof is what gives others the faith to keep climbing. So remember this, your victory is bigger than you. It is meant to ripple outward, touching lives, encouraging hearts, and igniting courage in people you may never even meet. Your testimony is the echo of your triumph, resounding in the lives of others, and